Let's understand media queries in CSS. First of all, we create a div with the class of container. Let's say that div has a width of 100 pixels and a height of 100 pixels, as well as a background color of yellow. Now we can change properties of this container, for example, by using a media query. You can create a media query by using add media. And after that add media attribute, you can define several properties if you want to. For example, we can define a min width, a max width, a min height, and a max height. So let's say we want to define a max width of 700 pixels. Now we use opening and closing brackets. And now inside of these brackets, we can, for example, define styles for the container that only apply when the width is 700 pixels or below. So let's say for our container, we want to have a background color of, for example, aqua when the width is below 700 pixels. So let's test that by making our window a little bit smaller. And as you can see, we get below 700 pixels, our container is basically turning blue. And once we make our screen larger again, it will get yellow again once our screen has a width of above 700 pixels. Obviously, we could also do the same, but say that we want to use the min width, for example. By default, if we have a width of above 700 pixels, our container has a color of blue, and otherwise it has a color of yellow. Obviously, you could change pretty much all of the properties. We could also say that we want to change the width to 200 pixels, for example, once we have a certain width, and now our container is a little bit bigger. And once the screen gets below 700 pixels, it will get smaller and yellow again. Besides min width, min height, and max height, you can also define media queries that consider orientation like portrait or landscape. And you can do so by using the and keyword and using an opening and closing bracket. And inside of these brackets, you can say, for example, orientation, and you can see you can either choose landscape or portrait. Let's say we want to use the portrait orientation. And once we save, as you can see, nothing is going to change. And we can also use landscape. And as you see, now we don't have that container anymore because those styles only apply to portrait, and we are not in the portrait landscape right now because we are in the landscape. So let's change that back to portrait so we see the difference. And now we could also add a third argument if we want to do so by defining a type of either screen, print, speech, or all. We can, for example, say add media screen and min width 700 pixels and orientation portrait. And if I save, nothing is going to change because we are obviously using a screen right now. And screen basically just means if you're using any form of a screen, it could be the screen of a mobile phone, it could be the screen of a PC, it could be the screen of a laptop. So just any screen, and those styles will apply. We could also say that we want to use print, for example, and then you will only see those styles when printing, basically. You can also say speech, which would be for screen readers and might be useful if you have like text to read out. And you can also use all, which is basically just the default value. But yeah, most of the time you can just leave those values. And the only really important value is basically the min width, min height, and max height. In some cases, you want to do some things maybe based on the orientation, so that might be useful. But that is basically all you need to know about media queries in CSS.